Yeah, right. We heard that before, but they were right.
That's right, every Team League player that they curse and never make success in 1v1 tournaments. But looks like the countdown has begun. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, time for Life versus Leenock.
IPL 5. Welcome to IPL 5 Cloud Kingdom.
That's right, we are on Cloud Kingdom, and down here, the bottom left-hand corner of it, we have our red Zerg player from Startail, the rating GSL Code S champion. It is Life.
Startail Live.
There he is. Very, very concentrated look on his face, but his opponent is up here in the top right-hand corner. He's our blue Zerg player from FXO. He is...
FXO Leenock.
And Life is that kind of player right now in the current, in the current time that can't be said to have a lot of rivals. But if I have to mention one, I would say it's his parents. Because he's so young, and they want him to focus on school and everything, and that's probably a good idea too. But that's just a little bit of an added challenge for him that he takes upon the chin and continues dapperly. Does well anyway.
But he's like, Mom, Dad, I'm winning millions of won at Starcraft. How can you stop me from this?
Yeah, but when you convert it to dollars, you're not a millionaire anymore. So.
Hey, I would still take the many hundreds of thousands of dollars that he is winning at Starcraft 2, I have to say. So now we have a little bit of a difference between these two players. Looks like right now, you guys can actually vote live on the players through our iOS app or through IGN.com directly. You vote on the players, you actually get points if you pick the correct guy. You get more points for voting early, you get more points actually for voting for the underdog. The highest point total the entire weekend is going to win an Origin PC.
Wow.
Pretty cool stuff.
Is that going to be the same PC as the players are playing on here?
The exact same ones, as in we take it from this event and ship it to you. So.
Very cool. You might even still find some replays from the players who played on there.
You probably will, actually.
Extra bonus.
All right, so starting things off here, pool coming up after hatch for Leenock. Life decided to go for a pool first, as he often does. Now, Life is a guy who can throw a lot of different builds at you, pretty much at any given point in time. He can sit back and he can decide, well, I guess it's time for 2-base Infestor. It's time for 2-base Mutalisk. I'm going to decide to play that Speedling, Baneling, Tug of War a little bit more often. I'm going to bypass Banelings and go even after an expansion first and go for Roaches and play defensive enough that I can do it. He's got a lot of different looks. He's a very difficult player to play against.
Yeah, and I think when you look at really the star champion, the star material type of players, there's one thing they all have in common, and it's that they can do everything well. It sounds obvious, but you've got all these players, they're really good, but they kind of pigeonholed in one particular style.
Right.
As you say, oh, this player always harasses. And even though that makes you a specialist at it, it's players who can change things up and who can veer between extremely offensive and defensive types of play that make it to be multiple-time champions, such as Startail Life, such as MC, who has all sorts of very aggressive builds and different types of timing, so that he really makes his opponent off kilter. And for example, I am MVP.
I would even think of someone like Marine King Prime, a guy who initially found his success off of one type of build, but then converted into a player that has just tons of different looks at any given point in time, and you never know what he's going to throw at you. Okay, so we do have a big difference between these two players now. There's a lot of Zerglings coming up right now for Life, a lot of them. He's continuing to produce those. Baneling's already morphing at the front. Now, is he going to turn this into just... No, okay, so he's droning up behind this, so this is just going to be a bit of a Speedling Baneling attack here, rather than necessarily going all in. Leenock himself putting up his Evolution Chamber at the moment, morphing in a few defensive Banelings, and they should be there in plenty of time to defend this initial attack.
And the funny thing is, even though they open up with a different starting building, be it the hatch or the pool, they're pretty much in the same spot right now. They're both around 2 to 3 Banelings. In comes Startail Lives. Banelings, they're being focused down by the Queen, and there was a bunch of detonations, and now that must be the end of Startail Lives' attack, as he has no more Banelings, and Leenock still has some.
Yeah, I mean, there was a pretty good burst initially. It was a 2-for-1 Baneling trade in favor of Leenock, who already had 4 to begin with, so he still had 3 sitting around. The Queens weren't in any real danger. So Life, he tries to put on some pressure. Doesn't get a whole lot done, but honestly, because of the lings that Leenock made immediately following this, we're kind of at a draw. Not too much separating. It looks like Life, though, was able to drone up behind this, so he's up by about 7 workers at the moment.
Yeah, and Leenock immediately noticed when the fight was over, made about 11 drones of his own, so he's going to be exactly the same as Life. They're both making 4 more drones, and they're going to end up around at 41 drones or so. So,
all right. Well, layer tech is already coming up. Oh, this dance, this Baneling Zergling dance, always keeps me on the edge of my seat a little bit too much. Baneling just down to 1 hit point. It finally dies. And nothing is going to come of that at all. Layer Tech just about to finish up now for Life. He is putting down the Roach right afterwards. I wondered if he was going to save up and just go straight for Spire or an Infestation Pit, but going down the Roach Infestor path. Leenock also going down the Roach path, but looks like his Layer Tech was only just now started.
A very interesting difference here in that Leenock is making that Carapace upgrade, and Life is going to go for that ranged attack. Wow!
That was really close.
Quick reactions.
All right, that could have been a disaster for Life, but he's on top of it. And even feeling confident to move back in with his Zerglings and do a little bit more damage from time to time. So very cool stuff. This Overlord down to just 3 hit points, and it's going to try and get away, but a Queen, that is the slowest chase I've ever seen in the history of this game. All right, well, here comes Leenock back one more time with a Baneling, and he is going to ward away these units, but not before Life gets a perfect scout. He sees that the Layer Tech is well behind his. He saw the Roach Warren was up, so he knows that his opponent is basically down the same path, but he has a bit of a tech advantage for now.
Yeah, and, there's a lot of little skirmishes. They don't seem to get a lot of done to each other, but that's because they are so evenly matched. They're so fast, and wow, look at that. Links get caught.
Yeah.
And all the links from Leenock will go down.
All right, so we are sitting in that Baneling war for just a bit here. We're starting to make our way out of it. Glio Reconstitution, many Roaches coming up for Life at the moment, so he's going to safely take a 3rd base, or attempt to safely take a 3rd base. Some pressure being put on that now, but with the Roaches there, those Zerglings are not going to cause an issue. Back on Leenock's side, though, a little bit of a difference. Going a little bit quicker to his Infestation Pit. He's also got his, he's actually already got Burrow coming up, so that's a pretty big difference between these 2 players so far.
Now, what we have to look out for here, Life, he's getting that 3rd base, but he's making a lot of Roaches. His supply looks like he's ahead, but that's because Roaches cost so much supply. He's on 16 Roaches, Leenock has none yet. He is making a few, but he went faster for that Infestation. Nice position there on those Roaches. Will not be able to surround them, Leenock is. And, well, the question is, will Life be moving out with these Roaches sometime soon? Can he actually afford that with Leenock being poised to do a Zergling counterattack? Maybe some Zerglings in Life's natural will be able to prevent against that, and now those Roaches move out. Now, this is going to hit before Infestors are potentially coming out, so can Leenock hold this somehow? Does he need to throw up Spine Crawlers, make some of his Roaches of his own, or is Life just sharking, knowing that this is not the type of army that can finish off an opponent?
You know, despite Leenock's much faster Infestation Pit, he's only just now started Pathogen Land, so the difference in Infestors here is not going to be all that great. That's a pretty good pickup, being able to grab a Queen. He's going to limit the production over at the 3rd for a while. A single inject hadn't even hit that yet, so that is going to limit the production actually for a decent period of time. Life even doing or forced to produce an extractor there for a second to save the drone, actually had to cancel that. So Leenock's just being very annoying while getting all of his tech back in position, back at his base.
Yeah, and annoying is the right term, as Leenock got such a fast burrow upgrade that he's burrowing 3 Zerglings, which forces Life to make an Overseer. And that's just, you know, actions spent by Life, gas spent just for the cost of a few links. And that burrow upgrade is ever useful in this matchup as the game goes on longer and longer.
Now, Leenock does have 3 Infestors coming up, and Life has not started his Pathogen Glance at all, so his Infestors are going to be quite delayed. Trying to come back and pick off a Queen himself. Leenock actually feeling confident enough that he actually injects and then burrows right out of the way. So those Lings are actually going to come to naught, not really even pulling that many forces out of position. Life making his way up now with all of his Roaches. He does have
34 Roaches now moving across against just 26, but there comes some Infestors, and they will provide that difference as he does a double double fungal here. Will all those roaches go down? Leenock moves in and he gets triple fungal on the roaches. That's a nice pickup by him.
That's a huge win for Leenock there, as he's really limited his opponent's ability to move out on the map. Life's trying to put up some infestors right now, but Leenock is going to hold a bit of an advantage there. He's got some more coming up of his own. Worker supply is still in Life's favor, but you know, if that holds, if these players move to maxed out, then Leenock will actually have a few additional forces on the map. But otherwise, we're kind of getting into a bit of a slowdown. Leenock's going to try and move out, but that's just the time the infestors are popping up for Life, so shouldn't be that successful of an attack if he commits too far.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that he moves up like that without checking first with that Overseer. It's so risky. We saw what happened when Life tried the same thing, and it doesn't have to be that way, that the attacker is always losing to that kind of fungal caught in the funnel. Now, wow, Infestors tried to move out there with a burrow, but they were stopped by an Overseer and some roaches. So he threw up Infested Terrant, lost 1 or 2 Infestors, and then moved back with his final Infestor.
And Life is doing a very nice job at defending at the other path, too. I mean, almost having a difficult time keeping up with just the observers of how many attacks are actually hitting at the same time. Leenock's going to be the first person to try and take a 4th base, though, and that is going to be a point of contention, as Life will want to focus a lot of his engagements there. If Leenock is able to pull that off, even for just a little while longer than his opponents, then that's going to be pretty successful. Life follows up with his own his own 4th base, though, right away.
Now, one thing to note is that Life, he hasn't always been ahead in workers, but he has been ahead in workers most amount of the time. He's on 72 against 65 now. Small difference, to be sure, but he's always been ahead a few drones most of the time. So in the end, Life, he's a little bit ahead on those upgrades, getting tunneling claws. He had finished up his 2nd attack upgrade before Leenock had already. He's getting his own burrow now, and it looks like he's a little bit ahead in the army department as well.
So even though he had lost that one engagement or threw away a bunch of roaches to those fungal growths up at the front, that superior economy was able to keep him back in this. And right now, we are maxed out. A fungal actually hitting the infestors, that's going to do a little bit of damage to him, but if Leenock is not able to follow those up, that's just going to be a little bit of wasted energy. He swings around the back with a lot of roaches. Startail Life sitting at the bottom of his ramp, waiting for this engagement, though, waiting to get that perfect concave. He doesn't want to engage up this ramp. That would give his opponent the defender's advantage.
Oh my god, okay, we got 2-1 upgrades here for Leenock. He's moving in with a very nice arc against 2-0 roaches. Volleyballs are being thrown in the midst. Fungal growth is going down. And in the meantime, there's this distraction attack here by Leenock at the 3rd base of Life as he tries to take out some roaches. Some drones, in the meantime, Life is doing a counterattack on the 3rd. Leenock did break that attack and he's moving in now for the kill. No more energy on the infestors of Life, that is, and Leenock looks like he's taking out this base here and taking out most of the army. So even though he's losing drones in his 3rd, does it really matter? He might have enough army just to finish off this game already.
Leenock did a magnificent job of saving up just the perfect amount of larvae, the perfect amount of resources when he went into that engagement, and as such, he's able to reinforce a lot quicker, and Life is sitting back with almost no army to speak of. He's forced to pull his drones off the line, and they are not going to stand in very long against those roaches, even though Life did some damage over at Leenock's 3rd, and he's going to swing in and try and do some damage into the natural. That alone is not going to be enough, as Leenock is just cleaning out everything of Life's.
Yeah, that was an excellent engagement by Leenock, and it's catapulting into the biggest advantage in this game yet. He has killed so many drones. Even though Life is killing back drones, Leenock is on only 44 drones and Life is on 48, but we look at the standing army and Leenock has nearly double.
Yeah, I mean, that amount of supply is going to be so difficult to overcome because Life wasn't able to bank that many resources. Unfortunately, it looks like these infestors are actually being thrown away in the middle of the map for Leenock. He tried to get those out of there. He trades a little bit of energy for 1 or 2 roaches, but he ended up losing 5 or 6 infestors in the process. So Life still doing a bit of damage with roaches inside of the main. You know, so he's still, but I mean, it's going to be so difficult to try and overcome 4-base production right now. Even with the small amount of drones that Leenock still has up, he can still take advantage of them much more readily.
Yeah, it's very hard for Life to reproduce here. He has lost 2 of his hatcheries. Leenock has 5-6 hatcheries against Life's only 3 or so. And Leenock coming in here with his roaches. His roaches have 2-2 upgrades. Life's are only 2-1, as if that even mattered. Leenock takes the win.
GG, so Leenock up 1-0 here, maybe getting himself a little bit of revenge for the past couple of tournaments. Looking very satisfied there, but pretty good back and forth battle. I mean, there was a huge swing, though. I mean, both players were moving in with maxed armies over at the fourth. Leenock had even pulled off a few of his roaches to go attack his opponent's third, but despite that, he was able to overwhelmingly win that engagement and reproduce his army so much quicker.
Yeah, and right before that final fight happened there in the middle of the map, around that fourth base of life, there was just a little bit, a tad more army value for Leenock. Not really enough to decide that fight by itself. It was really positioning that mattered. And perhaps it was the fact that Leenock was able to swerve with all his army and get a very nice spread out, and he wasn't stopped by fungal growth on that ramp. He wasn't bottlenecked. So it was a very equal engagement, perhaps even a little bit better. And for the person who's defending, he kind of has a chance to try and mold the fight into a very advantageous position if he's paying enough attention. And perhaps Life was just doing an inject at that very moment that Leenock moved in. It's a very stressful moment, and well, Leenock knew when he was going to attack, and yes, splayed out his forces, and it worked out very well for him.
And that engagement was magnificent. Guys, we're going to go into game number 2 here in just a second. I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors as well, especially SpeedStick. SpeedStick, don't sweat it, handle it. They have been coming